Well, I'll start. The governor wants 150 million bucks for education. Who doesn't like education?
Well, we all like education, but the numbers the governor gave tonight in his speech do not appear in the budget which he submitted to us. So his budget tonight only had about a $50 to $60 million increase in education spending. The 150 he referenced on the dais is funded by what he calls Medicaid expansion. So even though he referenced $150 million more in education spending tonight, that does not match up with the budget proposal that he just submitted to us.
Mr. Speaker, at the beginning and then at the end of his address, he really offered an opportunity of collaboration with the House. He talked about being up here on the third floor more often. Did that resonate with you?
Well, look, I think as we've said over on the House side for weeks and months since we've taken over, so if the governor wants to work with us, our door's open. I think the voters of the state of Missouri demand a functional government, and I think they demand that their public leaders talk through issues and try to work through disagreements. So if the governor's sincere about wanting to work with the General Assembly, he'll find our doors to be open.
There were some pretty specific recommendations he had involving law enforcement as a result of Ferguson, including re-examining whether lethal force can be used. Is that going to have traction in this General Assembly?
What we're doing is we've had somewhere around 50 to 60 bills relating to law enforcement in Ferguson filed by members. So we're going to refer most, if not all, those bills to committees, the public safety and the civil and criminal jurisprudence committees. And I've asked my chairman to sort those bills and to organize them and to provide fair hearings. And once we get testimony on all those bills and the implications, we will consider things that make sense.
Do you think there should be restrictions on current law when police can use lethal force?
Once again, I think we're going to go and hear both sides of the story on that. I feel pretty firmly, as we've stated numerous times, that I don't think we can make law enforcement a scapegoat in this, that men and women who government policies and government officials put on the front lines to do the job should and deserve all the tools necessary to protect themselves and do their jobs well. So we're going to refer that bill to committee. We're going to look at it. If it makes sense, we'll do it. If it doesn't make sense, we won't.
The governor, when he talked about ethics changes and new ethics laws, there was almost no response from the Republican side. There was no applause.
Well, there was no proposal. I mean, what does it mean? I mean, he says we need to do ethics reform. What's his proposal? You sat and listened to the speech.
Okay, so did the members feel like he was talking down to them, or
Well, you have to ask the members, but I think there's no reaction because there was no proposal.
What do you
Rudy's
think
question,
of him?
follow up on Rudy's question, the same thing on transportation. Said here are the problems, no proposals.
I don't think it's rocket science to know that the three ways you fund roads would be a sales tax, a gas tax, or tolling. So the sales tax was taken off the table by the voters last year for the governor to get up and say we need to look at gas tax and toll roads. No new information there, so there's really nothing to react to.
Would it have helped if he had had a specific proposal?
I guess if you want to get a reaction on the General Assembly as to whether they're going to support it or not, it would be pretty helpful to have a specific proposal. Look, at this speech tonight, I think if you're going to sum it up and what worked and what didn't work, is that we kind of talked about it afterwards. It's like visiting your 5-year reunion. Okay, so we all went, we revisited something we did 5 years ago, and that's pretty much the only substance to the speech tonight. Was a bill that was passed back in 2010. Going forward, it was statements of things like we need to look at transportation funding. Well, we all know that. Or the only specific proposals that the governor made tonight going forward were more social spending, more government programs, and expanding the role of government. I think those things are all going to face a very difficult road here in the General Assembly.
He didn't specifically mention this in his address, but during the budget briefing beforehand, one of the proposals for bringing in more revenue was passing tax amnesty again, and he's proposed this in the past.
Sure.
And he's taken it off the table in the past too. Do you think it's got a realistic chance this time?
I think Representative Flanagan's planning on filing that bill again, and we'll consider it. But keep in mind with the voters, and we should probably thank the voters for what they did last November in passing Amendment 10. Because despite the rhetoric that we heard from the governor tonight in the State of the State address about 150 million more for education. That's not in the budget books that he submitted to us. Okay, so his rhetoric doesn't match the actual numbers in the budget, and I think that's because of the voters in Amendment 10 last year passed a constitutional amendment that said you cannot submit budgets based upon laws that have not yet been implemented by the General Assembly.